All right, just wondering if we've got Natalia here. Our next guest, Natalia. I don't know if she's on here. Just waiting for her to log on. While we're waiting for Natalia to arrive, Natalia Rose, who's going to be talking to us about detoxing the world and the greater detox and just her work in general. I'm just wondering if anybody would like to speak. I think she will be here shortly. She's joining us as a special favor. She's with friends, and so I'm sure she'll be here any minute. But does anyone want to say anything? Is everybody doing all right? There's our special guest. Hello, Natalia.
Oh, wait,
Hello.
Sorry, I was, hello. Hello,
Hi.
Amanda.
Lovely to have you.
So good to be here. Happy Lionsgate, everyone.
You as well. I was just saying that I was looking for a lioness in the country and your face came to mind. And for sure you are one. Doing the greater cleanup in the country and in the world, helping with that.
That's very kind of you to say. I hope I can live up to that. And I feel honored to be here with you guys. Thank you. That's, as we roar.
Absolutely. And I met you, I mean, I didn't meet you in person, but I met you in the audience during your talk at Michael Tellinger's Ubuntu conference some years ago. And it was just this magnificent conference. I mean, it was like a blueprint that was coded into South Africa with all these incredible speakers, including yourself. And I was just so blown away by your presentation. And I just wondered, I know you've taken a special little bit of time out for us today. Thank you so much. I just wondered if you would mind just telling us a bit about yourself and the work that you do, and if there's sort of something specific around, the soul's evolution work that you want to touch on today, that would be great.
Wow. Yes, I would love to. And maybe my impulse is to rush into the soul's evolution, but I'll just briefly say that I am an author and I help catalyze people's transformation from the sort of matrix conditioned, programmed way of thinking, consuming, to bust out of that and see what's actually possible, see what our true inheritance is when those all that obstruction, all that convoluted madness is pulled out of us. And so that's basically the way I see my mission, is to restore the soul. So I love the fact that we've already made the connection. You've already made the connection between the lion and the soul, which comes through the sun. The sun, of course, being the S-O-L, S-O-U-L, S-O-N, S-U-N. It's all connected, and the lion being emblematic of courage, which we know is in French, it's cœur, which is courage, which is the heart. In French, the word for heart is cœur, and it makes perfect sense. So we have this wonderful composite in the lion of Leo being the representative of the sun. So the sun card in the Leo card in the tarot is the sun card, and sun, soul, sun, it all connects. And of course, what we know about the sun is its incorruptibility, it's noble, which connects with gold. So it's so exciting, because actually, again, I say that, I'll repeat it, but like, it's emblematic. The lion is emblematic of gold, of incorruptibility, of the soul, of the sun, of courage, of the heart. The heart, of course, the word heart is an anagram for earth. So it's just like, it's a compounding, perfect composite of everything that's so good and true and pure about life.
I remember, I must just put my little lion out here with the gold. I've been drawing on the gold energies and the sovereignty and the sun and the soul, and what Credo often spoke to as children of the sun god, that being us, as well as the white lions, and the incarnation of the enlightenment process. So I don't know where I was going to go with that thought. It suddenly disappeared. But yeah, it's so many links to alchemy and this process that you work with as well. And you just tie so many things together, and you've got such important work to do. And we're so lucky to have you. And I'm sure that you've got a lot of people that you're working with, that you're so busy. But tell us a little bit more about your work.
Okay, and I want to continue the soul evolution thing too, because it's so perfect. And we're, as you said, we're all doing this. It's so cool. So the alchemy that you're describing is so spot on. And forgive me if I'm repeating things that have already been said, but if the whole idea is to take this being that's supposed to be refined and become more rarefied, to go from a base metal to a noble metal, which of course gold is noble metal. And what we know about gold too, that I love, is its atomic symbol is AU. So on the periodic table, it's AU, which is the beginning of authority, authorship, autonomy, authenticity, even AUM as an ohm. So I mean, there's just so much that connects.
No, it's so beautiful when you start to get all those codes coming together, and even the name of the lion in Africa is Tau, T-A-U.
Oh wow!
It's another beautiful connection, yeah. And I was thinking also about Ormus, and Ormus gold, and how there's different sections of the achievement of the red lion goes into the white lion, goes into sort of different states as you do the alchemical refinement. And that's so much a part of what we do inside of ourselves as well. That's also a wonderful topic. I haven't actually looked deeply enough into which aspect of the lion. I think there's 3 lion phases in alchemy, but I must do a bit more research into that.
Well, I don't know anything about that. That's amazing. So when we talk about sovereignty, I think one of the things we can't forget about, and this sense of, okay, so we have this incredible Lion's Gate moment, but it's an opportunity for an initiation. An initiation basically means that we have the opportunity to up level. The term I like to use is syntropy. So we have entropy, and some people say that the opposite of entropy is neg entropy, and that's true, that's factually true, but I don't love the term neg entropy because it's a negative. So syntropy means the same thing without the neg, so I say syntropy. So it's an opportunity to rise up. So entropy is, for anyone who wants definition of it just loosely, it's taking when anything falls from the state that it's at to a lower state of order. It's an entropic demise. It's experiencing entropy. Now, what's interesting is the second law of thermodynamics tells us that anything that's left alone is going to suffer entropy. So it's not going to stay the same. And we know that nothing ever stays the same in life. Change is a constant. But that change, if left alone, is always going to lower its order. It's going to descend into greater chaos. And now chaos is also disintegration. So when we connect the fact that when we want to rise up the upward spiral, the syntropic spiral, we're also creating higher order and greater integrity. So one of the easiest ways to think about it is like a t-shirt. So you wear that t-shirt and the threads become threadbare over time. That's disintegration. That's actually, it's entropic. You have an entropic t-shirt. And by the opposite, you can take the skin on the body or the integrity of living tissue, and living tissue can always rise to higher expressions of itself. But we always think of the human body as something, often people will say, oh, it's just a meat sack. That's my worst, because it's not. It's the soul embodied. We literally have soul. The way to think about the soul, I'll put this out there for anyone who likes it, is that the body is the soul. It's like, don't think that the soul is in here or out here. Your whole being is soul. The fact that, we have degenerated over time. I mean, some people think we've evolved. I tend to believe that we have descended from something higher, and we need to get back there and then go beyond that. So go into higher and higher states of entropy. But that only comes from increasing our integrity. And here's the gig. Integrity and raising to higher states of syntropy actually takes effort. So remember, left to itself, everything's going to suffer demise. We have to put forth the effort and the discipline. So we have this Lionsgate portal open to us, and we have this archetypal image of the lion and all that the lion represents. But we actually have to become and embody those qualities if we're going to have a successful initiation and rise to higher states of order and ride this entropic spiral upward, which is really hard, because that means that we have to overcome our addictions. We can't be blaming the world from acting parasitic if we're harboring parasites internally or emotionally or energetically. We have to fight off those things. And the only way a sovereign remains sovereign is to keep its boundaries of its kingdom strong and secure, which takes effort, which means having a great army. And this is what, is always the most challenging thing for those who even have the most noble intentions to do, because it's hard to overcome our addictions. We know that. I know that personally. I'm not telling anyone to do something I haven't personally done and like struggled with myself, because we all have so many, because we're born into this system, this matrix that wants to make us weak, and it can make us weak the more addictions it sucks us into. So that sense of enslavement to these addictions is keeping us from our sovereignty. So again, it's an opportunity to become like the lion and the highest expression of the archetype's qualities, but it's hard to do that. And then we have to accept that we need to develop a fitness around discipline. And even when it's hard, we have to do it anyway. And that's how we're going to create the muscle around these things and become sovereign and have these great boundaries and stuff. Because I think that it's really easy to fall into the sense of, oh, it's the Lion's Gate today, and we're going to magically have all this special energy around us. It's only an opportunity. We have to do really hard work to get there and become that.
Yeah, absolutely. What's coming to mind is this book called The Red Lion, actually, which is written by Maria Zeppes. And she talks about the elixir. It's basically the story of a master's last 12 lives. And it's based on kind of the whole alchemical journey to ascension. And he has this quest for immortality and, eternal life and this and that, and hunts down this elixir of eternal life called the Red Lion, which is basically gold in a high spin state. I was going to talk about almost earlier. That's where I lost my track. And he kills somebody in order to get it, and then he drinks it, but he's not ready. So he wakes up inside of this body that's not awakened and not trained. And then he basically logs his 12 journeys of complete awakeness, even though he still dies and wakes up with complete memory until he manages to ascend. It's an interesting concept. I just wondered, in terms of ascension and food and all of those things. I mean, I know that there's so much more than, to talk about food, but I know it's definitely a gateway to conquer, in a sense, in mastery.
It's huge. And that's where so much of our discipline, unfortunately, needs to go, because that's just something that we've gotten so stuffed up with from the beginning. And, you know, we know that, like, in the protocols of the elders of Zion and the Rockefellers protocols and things, it's all about how can we shut these people down. Well, it's actually really easy. If we just start stuffing them from day one, we take them away from the mother's breast, we give them hospital births, we stuff them with formula, we stuff them with grain, we just, you know, stuff them, and then we tell them that that's nourishment. And, you know, and so we're caught up in this. So unless and until we can cancel out all those false programs about what we actually should be consuming, and when we do that, we realize that we should be consuming very little, and what we should be consuming actually should be sun food and literally chlorophyll, so greens being the safest, purest, best food. But until we do that, we're going to be stuck in the cycle of, we might really want to ascend and our intentions might be so admirable, but if our actions, if our knowledge doesn't include the understanding that that stuff is stuffing, and what should be stuffed? Stuffed toys, animals. When you're dead, you're stuffed and you're put in a box, right? And you're like, we go to stores to buy stuff. We want to get rid of the stuff in our head, the stuff we watch, the stuff we do. It's stuff. When we started, when the penny drops and we realize we've been stuffed, we can start to unstuff ourselves. And just the
completely
the act of expunging all this, because what you see in the lion archetype, they don't stuff themselves. They don't go and like fry up some fries and whatever starch to have with their impala. I'm not suggesting that we eat flesh at all, but what I'm saying is the lion is designed to, but that's a different story. But we have to get around this idea that if we're soul, we should not be. The more we stuff that up, we're impeding our ability to become what we already are. We're shutting ourselves down. It's like we're snuffing out our own flame. So that's why the food conversation, we shouldn't get stuck on it, but we need to address it and then keep going. So, you know, get the diet right, get the body cleaned up, get over the addictions. It is so much harder to do than I'm actually making it out to be right now, in the sense that we have to overcome these addictions. It's so hard, but we have to find ways to do them bit by bit. We take baby steps a little bit more every day. But here's the thing, as we unstuff ourselves with colonics and enemas, I'm a big proponent of that, because we actually have to get the stuff out. You know, you don't clean your house by not taking the stuff out. You can pull it off out of the cupboards and you bring the dirt to the center, and then you take it out of the house. Otherwise it resettles. But what happens is when you take that stuff out, you have less of an inclination to want to have it. So you're actually removing your addiction by removing the substance that's in. And then in that, of course, you have all the rogue microbes and stuff. And then emotionally, you're getting, it will be reflected emotionally, mentally, energetically, spiritually. And the big one, I just want to get this in here because it's so important, is sexuality. So we've been stuffed with such false ideologies around sexuality. We've been commoditizing ourselves, objectifying ourselves to the point where we're so misguided in terms of how we should be engaging sexually. And that's a huge way, as much as with food, maybe even more so, that we lose power and leak power. It's like having a hole in your boat. So we've got to clean that up in order to be sovereign. So I don't even think we can have a conversation about sovereignty without getting into that conversation around sexuality. And I used to really blush when I talked about this and be like really hesitant, but now it's just like no holds barred, because we got to line that up as much as everything else.
Yeah, there's so many places to go inside of this conversation. It's just unbelievable. I want to leave space for the audience to also ask questions. I just want to say that, I mean, you really strike me as like I said, like having really mastered yourself in many ways. And I think one of the things that stood out to me at the conference was you spoke about how you have achieved the state of being able to hear the natural humming essence, the natural hum of your essence. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all. How did you do that? How did you do that?
I think what happens is when the requisite amount of stuffing finally leaves the body, and the reflection of all the levels, of course, but that core matter, when that leaves to a certain degree, and the connections can be restored with the life force flowing from the source, it happens spontaneously. Like I never thought, okay, I want my body to hum. It literally just started happening. I'd be waking up, or if I had a nap in the day, I would get this. It's like maybe like a really like a super engine from maybe a Bugatti engine, like your highest caliber sports car, just that vroom. If you've ever been inside one of them, like it's or like the buzzing of the bumblebee or the hummingbird, that incredible just that rev. And that's what we could, and then you start to wonder, well, how strong and how high can this rev actually become? And sometimes it gets a little disconcerting, because especially for those who have fasted and done lots of colon cleansing and really removing the stuff, because fasting without removing the stuff, again, from my experience, personal and professional, it doesn't have the same effect. But when you really get that stuffing out, the connections start to reform themselves. And they know what to do, because the innate intelligence of the body is so strong. Give it the conditions and it will do it itself. And that's what happens. You get this great life force, you get access to it. I've also found, well, of course, if you have gaps, if you're letting things in that shouldn't be coming in, it's really hard to get that. But if you're shutting out all the things that shouldn't be coming in, like all the media stuff that we shouldn't be seeing, everything that's coming in, the barrage, the eyes, the ears, the mouth, the skin, everything. Once you clean that up and you get the waste out, I believe that everyone, absolutely, we're all made this way to have that experience. So look forward to that. Everyone should look forward to that.
And Natalia, with all of the spraying, in the skies, and the graphene oxide that now seems to be everywhere, and the jabs, I don't know if you want to put in a few words around how you suggest people treat themselves with that, for that.
Well, one thing that's really cool, actually, especially given its name, is dandelion. Given that we're speaking about lions, we've got the dandelion.
Beautiful.
And you know what's amazing about dandelion is that it actually means dent de lion, dent de lion, dent de lion, which is lion's tooth. So people often wear a shark tooth, but the lion's tooth. So this incredible weed has the power to mitigate, to cancel out the spike protein, and to bind it. So I don't know how overt we're going to talk about the jab thing today, but I would say, well, obviously, I suppose I would. For me, it's like over my dead body. There's no way. I mean, you'll have to pin me down. And if it was done in such a way and I happen to survive, I would want to bind it immediately. So I'd want to get the dandelion, and I'd want to get a really strong binding agent. The dandelion alone will bind, but something like a zeolite, which I'm not typically like a big fan of, because zeolite requires a lot of colon cleansing, because it attaches so much to itself. So if there's not a lot of colon cleansing with it, it'll just bind, and you'll be stuck with a lot of things. They're bound, which is great, but if it doesn't get out, it's still pointless. So I would do something that has a strong binding ability, and then I would do lots of colon cleansing. Now, some of these things can be time releasing, can be other issues. It's complicated, but I would just try to mitigate that spike protein and get it out, and bind it and get it out.
Yeah, I don't think anyone in our community will be jabbing themselves anytime soon, but I think there's just some concern around sort of others that, maybe did it and weren't awake, and, are there is there help at all? And, I do believe that people that are completely naive and made a choice, but they still want to live, they really, really want to live, they will find a way.
Well, yeah. And there's also the possibility that it's not, the jab itself is not necessarily the kiss of death. It's the boosters that will come, that will be the consistency of landing all this, these heavy metals, this graphene oxide into the body, and to a point where one just becomes so unhuman, so artificial, but also potentially lining us up for something even bigger. So I think there's still time now. I think that, I agree with you. I think it's possible that you could really remove the residue from this jab if you gather it and get it out. So literally canceling the spike protein with dandelion, binding it with something like a zeolite or bentonite, and then making sure you're using enemas or something to get this waste out of your body. Remembering that all the radiation and the radiation, heavy metals, parasites, all of these things live in the waste. So if you can remove the waste, and I know people often think, oh, I don't want to do enemas and colonics, and it seems, but actually we're so lucky they exist, because if it didn't exist, we'd really be stuck with this stuff inside of us eternally, but we're not, or, you know, for as long as our body should live. We have this incredible opportunity for, you know, the equivalent of, I don't know what it is in Rand, maybe like for like 100 Rand or maybe $10, you can get an enema kit at your local, you know, drugstore or on Take-A-Lot or whatever. The one I recommend, by the way, if I should, if anyone wants to know, is the Cara, C-A-R-A enema kit. Very inexpensive. You can get it online pretty much anywhere. And I haven't found it in the drugstores in South Africa. Annoyingly, it's very hard to find enema kits, not like that actually are like the enema bags, but get the fountain syringe. That's the best one that's on the market. It's one I recommend to all my clients. You literally hang it on a doorknob, the water goes in, you sit and the waste comes out, and you can literally start getting this waste, your whole lifetime's worth of radiation, heavy metals, parasites, rogue microbes. It's all stored in the waste. So just
and you recommend it every day, don't you?
Well, you know, it depends on how the person's eating, because if we don't, it's the formula for cleansing is awaken and release. So we have to awaken enough to release enough. So if someone who, like, you know, eats normally goes for even a professional colon hydrotherapy session, they probably won't release very much because it hasn't been awakened. We have to eat in such a way. So it's the alkaline diet that awakens the waste. It literally pulls it out of the cells and tissues to prep it. It tees it up for the enema or colonic that will come with it. So even just having a green juice every day, just to wake up enough so that your enema will work. Do an enema once, then have success with it. Do it again whenever you're ready. It doesn't have to be every day. Shouldn't be every day for someone who's not eating enough cleansing foods. You know, otherwise you're just going to run into an empty, unsuccessful enema session, which is really frustrating. But it's a big conversation to talk about what happens when you reconstitute the waste in the body. But suffice to say that if you awaken and release consistently, you're going to upgrade your tissue quality very quickly, and whatever you can get out of the body will leave. It's your best opportunity. It's really your only opportunity to get rid of it. Infrared saunas are great. You know, there's other things, but what you would release an infrared sauna, I use infrared sauna every day. I love my infrared sauna. You know, the little house, the whole thing, it's amazing. But without colon cleansing and consistent colon cleansing, because we live in a world that's so acidic, we come into this world with half a deck. You know, the fortitude of our organs is so weak because of our lineage. Our ancestry is just like, you know, disastrously degenerated our DNA by the time we get it. And then we're put in this world that's inside out and upside down. So there's a lot of cleanup work that has to happen. The idea that, you know, doctors will say, oh no, don't worry, the body will detox itself. Oh, you'll digest all of that. That's not true. You can't put acidic substances in an alkaline body and not expect them to stick in the tissue like glue, because what happens when you have acidity, which is positively ionically charged, with alkalinity, which is negatively ionically charged, you've got you've got magnets, and you've got this stuff, this acidic food sticks like glue stuck on you. So we have to wake it up again. We've got to sort of coerce it out of the cells and tissues with the alkaline juices and the raw salads. And if raw salads and juices are too much for people, just do some cooked greens. Just keep it really simple, steamed greens, and just clean the diet up slowly, a little bit more every day or week. Your body will respond quickly. There's so much innate fortitude that's still there. As much as we've lost, there's still enough there that it knows what to do. Just give it a little bit more of the conditions every day. And see, the thing is, it's not about looking cute and, you know, and being thin and having a bikini body. It's not about that at all. It's about the fact that if we're stuffed up with this stuff, we're stuffing our sun. We're snuffing out that, you know, that golden energy.
Yeah, you speak a lot about the natural fire. Hey, I'm just noticing that. I know you've got to go. You've got another appointment, but and we kind of got 1 minute left. I wonder if we should take a question, or if you want to just talk about your sort of daily routine at the moment, like including the Wim Hof and you know, what are you doing to nurture your soul? I know, you know, you're just about a breatharian. You don't really like weaned yourself off sort of food a while back, just about.
Yeah, it's funny. I still really enjoy food. So that's my problem, in the sense that I could, at this point, eat very rarely, but I still have one meal a day, and I enjoy it very much. And I guess it keeps me connected to the earth. Sometimes when I get off center a little bit, I realize how important it is for me to stay in my center. And I wonder how people cope, because I find life to be a real struggle. I find that all the things that we're, having to contend with are so difficult. And yet it seems like everybody pretends that they're fine and that everything's easy, and all this, whether it's all the administrative tasks that we have to deal with, or it's not life, it's the world. And the world and life are completely different. You've got the world, which is the matrix, and you've got life, which is what I like to use the analogy of the bottle. I don't have a bottle right here, but think of a bottle, and the bottle is the world, it's the matrix. We have to get out of the bottle and experience life, but it's really hard to get out of the bottle because everything keeps you in it, and it keeps you believing that that's like the real deal. So the things I do, I have to do. Like, I have to eat cleanly, I have to get into nature, I have to exercise. It's not an option for me, because I have a miserable life experience if I don't do those things that keep me clear of the world. So getting into the ocean, which I have such an aversion to cold, and it's incredible how I've been able to do this. And anybody can. If I can, anybody can, because man, the cold is tough.
It's quite an ecstatic experience going into the freezing cold for a while.
Yeah, it is. And it also just, and the ocean, the way it just, with every, coming in and out, it just carries away all the negativity. And I think, some of us, or most of us, are highly empathic, and we're picking up so much. Sometimes I wonder if the grief I feel is my own grief or the grief of the world. Some days it feels like it could be the grief of the world. And, and I don't want to stay there. So I have these tools I'll use to make sure that it keeps flowing. And, we do, if we feel the need to cry, we have to cry, but to create the sense of peace, it's the only, if we're talking about sovereignty is power. And we get out of our power if the conditions are such that power can be taken from us. So if our boundaries aren't strong and all these things, so these things keep me in my power. But I call it the 4 pillars of peace. And if everyone can just take note of these 4 pillars, it will enable you to stay, the 4 pillars of power, 4 pillars of power keep you in your power. So the first one is peace. And that's a hard, just in and of itself, the world is, always trying to take that. The second one is order, creating as much order as possible. Now there's functional order and there's dysfunctional order. So I'm talking about functional order. And we can get into details if anyone wants to understand that better. But the third one is cleanliness. And the fourth one is balance. And again, we have functional cleanliness versus dysfunctional cleanliness. And, in this world, the way that the body we came into, these things I described earlier, we need to do a lot of cleanup in order to be in balance, in order to have order in our body. It seems extreme, but it's because the pendulum swung to another extreme. So by coming back, we have to do that much cleanup. If your kid trashes your house, having a house party, you're going to have to spend a lot of time, money, and energy cleaning, putting the house back into repair. So
yeah, when you look at what the cleanups that's going on in the world that is needed at the moment, it's much more than we ever thought, and it's just going on and on and on, and the bowels of the earth are being cleaned out, and the next level tunnel, and it's just the most unbelievable detoxification process, and it's quite grueling, really.
There's so much, and that's the thing to remember in the body, because if we can just do the as above so below thing, when you think that, people say I'm going to do a juice cleanse for 3 days, it's like, well, that's like a drop in the ocean. It's a life change that has to happen. But the beautiful thing is that as every time you have a great release, let's just say physiologically a great cleanse, or you can say every time you have a great cry and you release something emotional, even though there's so much, you're that much better off for not having that which you were carrying before. You've put down one piece of luggage, there might be a lot, but you're still way better off, and that will show. So to not let people get discouraged, I would hate to think like, oh, I'm so stuffed up, I'm stuffed, forget it. No, just keep at it, because you're going to start to feel that hum and that buzz, and things will get better. And sometimes there'll be 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you're still making progress. And, it's not about perfection. It's just about making that progress.
Thank you, beloved one. You are just such a star. Really, you're amazing. And Natalia, I just wanted to know if people want to read some sort of beginner's guides, or where do they, I know you've written many, many books. How do people get hold of you or your things, or where are your resources?
Well, I think nataliarose.com is probably the best one. And in terms of books, I think this group would probably most enjoy Raw Food, Life Force, Energy. Mm-hmm. And I will also say these are not exclusively hardcore raw books. This is a lifestyle that is about cleansing, and actually cooked foods have a real place in cleansing. So I just want to clarify that too. And yeah, I would say I'm on Instagram and Facebook. So I think between those few resources, it should be easy for them to find me.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I don't think there's really time, hey, for questions. I think
I'm happy to give you guys, I mean, it's a priority for me to.
Let me just go to the greater group quickly. I'll just unpin you and see if we can get, does anyone want to speak? Sorry, I don't know.
Hello.
Hi, Roy.
Thanks, you. Natalia, I've been listening to you invisibly.
Hi, Roy.
Thank you so much. Fortunately, I'm hearing challenged. I think that's heavy metal issue for later. Even so, I can still manage to comprehend what you have shared at 3 times normal speed, because you have a clear and clean mind and a very lucid way and very fast way of sharing information. So thank you so much for squeezing so much into that limited time. And what came to me when you mentioned about soul, I just want to put this up on the camera to share with you, with everyone. Let's see if it can.
Disappearing into the hologram of the lion.
Okay, because I've got a virtual background, but I'll just say it out. Soul, S-U-O-L, synchronized oscillation in universal love. Synchronized oscillation in universal love.
I'm gonna write this down. I love that. It's so beautiful, right? Thank you. Synchronized.
I thought that might resonate with you. Thank you so much.
Synchronized oscillation of universal love. That is so beautiful.
Stunning.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Mwah. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? Last chance before we, yes, Tish, you got your hand up this time. Go for it.
Natalia, I wanted to ask for myself and perhaps other people that haven't really done sort of a serious detox. I've done, I think, a 3-day detox, which was liquid. But as an initial kickstart, what time frame would you recommend for going into a serious detox?
Yeah. Well, first, yes. I would make lifestyle changes that will basically carry you away from an old way of operating and consuming to a new way, rather than saying, here's a 7-day or 30-day, or because that would imply that there's a return at some point to the things that you were detoxing from, which is basically detox to retox. So I would say find the things that you can very easily start to integrate into your lifestyle, like that green juice, the daily green juice. And then bit by bit, you think, well, what am I not so attached to? So some things that I still do, like I love my goat cheese and my dark chocolate. And I'm like, other things were easier to let go of. For example, like the starches and stuff, as much as I was addicted to them at a certain point in my life, and I was so food addicted, like if anyone could do that, if I could do this, anyone could do this, because I had such issues around food, and I went through like really all sorts of hell because of food. But bit by bit, how do I put this? The desire, the pain that I experienced was so great that I finally had the impetus, the reason to let go of these things. And once you let go of them, you actually stop being addicted and attached to them. You just need a few days off of each one of these things, and then they lose their attachment. But things like sugar, of course, and there's so many. But bit by bit, think of the things that you don't really need to have anymore, and then those things that you really struggle to disconnect from, leave them for now. It'll make a big enough difference to let go of those other things and to increase the alkaline things, whether you have it in the form of a steamed spinach or a raw salad, depending on the season of the year. There's a lot of different factors, but just gently upgrade, knowing that you're on a different track, you're walking away from what didn't serve you. You know, you can ask yourself why you really want those things back again anyway, and then you create something that really works for you. You got to make sure you enjoy it. You have to make sure it's satisfying. You have to make sure that it's feasible in all these different ways. So think about what you really enjoy. Think about what you need to integrate, and then just make it increase your daily habits bit by bit. But the colon cleansing is super expensive. It's super expensive. It's super important. It doesn't have to be super expensive. It's really key though. So if we awaken this waste, we have to get it out the door. We can't awaken it and then let it resettle. So the more important thing is, or the ultimate success in cleansing is that the waste leaves the building, the waste leaves the body. So keep that in mind too. And the more you do that, the better you'll feel, which means it's gonna be easier for you to stick to these new positive habits, and you'll have so much more energy as you go. If you start to have symptoms, and this is important for everyone to understand, whenever symptoms come up with cleansing, it's because the waste hasn't left. So the Herxheimer's reaction, all these things, and getting, you know, pimples or joint pain or headaches or flu symptoms, that's not actually the result of successful cleansing. That's the result of an attempt to cleanse that isn't finding an exit.
It's just, I find it so interesting in terms of the greater picture, you know, just like how the awakening process, and then how do we clean up here, you know, and the awakening and the cleanup have to go together. It's just an interesting greater, you know, when you think about everything that's being cleaned up here and just how difficult it is to have the awakening process without being able to detox it completely. But I mean, we all doing it in our own way. It's just, I definitely need to do more of it for sure. Oh, you're such a darling. So I'm not going to keep you longer. You must go and enjoy your weekend with your friends. You're a superstar. We love you, and thank you for being here. And we'll see you again another time.
Well, this is a beautiful soul family, and I thank you so much, Amanda. It's beautiful what you put together, and I'm honored, and I send it all, so much love to all of you, and feel,
Thank
joy in my heart.
Bless you. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Okay. Much love.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Lots of love.